And a couple of COVID cases on my Sunday Fox NFL show. I am going to be for the next few days in the radio studio. 1 hour from now, Colin right, Colin wrong. Great guest today, including Howie Long this hour. And Joy Taylor is on the FS1 lot and joining us live. Joy, how are you?
I'm great, Colin. Sad to not be with you today, but we're figuring it all out. And what a crazy weekend.
It was. And I want to start the show, Joy. If you're in your 20s or early 30s, this is hard to picture, but I'll try to paint the picture. If you're in your 20s, you don't remember this probably, but I'll give you an example. College basketball 20 years ago was huge. Guys like Patrick Ewing played 4 years of college. It felt as big as the NBA. I'm not joking. Can you imagine Zion for 4 years at Duke? All the best players came back. Occasionally, leaving early meant you left after your junior year. College basketball was huge 20, 25 years ago. So was boxing. You didn't have every baseball game and every NBA game and every college football game on television. You had much less on television 25 years ago. And the boxing matches felt so huge, and there were 4 or 5 massive, Ollie, Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Hagler, Hearns fights. And 20 years ago, the Raiders games, they all felt huge. They were rivals with the Steelers. They were rivals with Don Shula, the Dolphins. They were rivals with Elway. They were rivals with the new Seahawks. Everybody was their rival. And they played those late afternoon games, and they just felt gigantic. And then they just didn't matter a lot for the last 20 years. The Raiders are officially back. Last night, that was the single best loss, not only for the Raiders, but any NFL team this year. That thing had a chance to be awful. Andy Reid's 18-3 off a bye. The Raiders had beaten them at Arrowhead, and then victory lapped it in their bus. Typical Raiders get cocky and believe their press, and then they show up and get boat raced. No. They outplayed the Chiefs for most of the game. Can't tell you the last time I led a show with a losing football team. But if you're a Raider fan, you should feel great. Derek Carr was humming. That's as good as Derek Carr has ever played. They can run the football. They can go deep. They can eat the clock. It was just, first of all, between Mahomes and Derek Carr, that was the best quarterback matchup. That was a unbelievable showcase of quarterback talent. And the better quarterback won in the final, drive. That's what Patrick Mahomes does. You got to feel great. Kansas City this year, their defense since the end of last year has been better. So against everybody else this year, Kansas City's allowing 17.5 points a game. Against the Raiders this year, they're surrendering 35.5 points. So I watched that game, and I watched Derek Carr, and the reason everybody in America bet the Kansas City Chiefs, the Vegas sports books made a fortune yesterday because all of us had Kansas City. It had Chiefs written all over it. Revenge, Andy Reid off a bye. The Raiders had beaten them. They'd victory lapped it. They're starting to get great press. That had Raider mess all over it. And they played great football. And I got to tell you, I said it last week, John Gruden's my coach of the year. I'll double down on it. I know they're only 6-4, but if the playoffs started today, this is what's interesting. The Steelers in the AFC would be the number 1 seed. They'd get a bye. Kansas City would be the number 2 seed. You know who they'd play? The Raiders. And I got news for you. Andy Reid has no interest playing them again. He'd take Cleveland. He'd take Baltimore getting back into the playoffs. He'd take the sleepy Colts. He would take Buffalo. He'd probably even take Tennessee. So the Raiders are officially back. Derek Carr and John Gruden are in complete and utter harmony. Incredibly impressive. And I just think, I wish college basketball was like the old days and guys stayed in college and it was bigger. And I wish boxing was as big as it used to be. And I miss those 4 o'clock West Coast games, the sun coming down in Oakland, and here come the Raiders against the Dolphins and the Steelers, and they were just magnificent. They felt like the NFL. They were the outlaws of the NFL, and maybe in Vegas now they still are. But here's Gruden and Derek Carr afterwards. Happy guys for a loss.
I couldn't be more proud of our football team. I wouldn't trade any of our players for anybody. The effort that they've given us is tremendous. We've got to eliminate the penalties, and that starts with me.
It's the best offense I've ever been a part of, you know. This group is awesome, and I know I say it every week, but we can win in different ways, you know. You know, we can smash them, you know, with the run game, or we can do a shootout. You know, we can do it that way.
This felt so much like the Rams-Chiefs. Remember that game that was scheduled for Mexico a couple years ago? They had to come back, play in Los Angeles. The Chiefs lost that game. And it kind of feels like now, a couple years later, the Chiefs can win that game, and it's the Raiders that feel a little bit like the Chiefs. They're not quite ready to win that game yet, but they're really close, and they're about as good as a 6-4 team gets. And Derek Carr, and a lot of you don't like him, he was magnificent. He was absolutely great. And yeah, I know. We know Mahomes is great. That's been established. He's got the Super Bowl. I'll tell you, the NFL has hit a trifecta with Mahomes. He's the three things that matter. He's great, he's heroic, and he's incredibly likable. But what a performance last night. So let's talk about a team I've been critical of, and I still think they're going to go probably 13-3, the Green Bay Packers. But I said on Friday's show, they are the convertible sports car of the NFL. Nobody looks cooler. Nobody's better in better weather. They just scream country club living. But they've never been in a fight and won a fight in their life. So I want to see Green Bay play the Colts in what will be an ugly football game. The Colts are physical. The Colts' offensive line is great. They challenge your manhood. And what happened? The Packers looked really good for a half. And then the second half became into a little bit of a fist fight, and Green Bay rolled over. This is why I can't take them seriously. They're going to win out in their schedule. They play a bunch of bad teams. But if you start looking at the numbers in the second half, classic Green Bay, could they run the ball? Nope, 66 yards rushing. Turnovers? Ooh, they got a little uncomfortable. Colts have a pass rush, 4. Time of possession, they got smoked. And it's not Aaron Rodgers' fault. Aaron Rodgers watched the second half. But they went in at halftime. Green Bay led. Everything's rolling. Colts came out, had a 14-play drive, a 10-play drive, and an 8-play drive. Thanks for flying United. And Aaron Rodgers sat in the sidelines and watched the second half. Wasn't on Aaron. I mean, he had a pick. You know, it wasn't Aaron's best game, but Aaron played fine. Aaron played very, very well. But this is what I doubt about him. This is what I doubt. And Green Bay tried to solve this dilemma in their draft. They went and got a running back, a power back, and a blocking tight end, and 3 offensive linemen. They haven't solved it. They remain the convertible sports car of the NFL, and SUVs win in this league once you get to Thanksgiving. And by the way, the Colts got no breaks from the officials. Well, I mean, that series of holding calls, a couple of those, come on, late in the game, you don't call those holding calls. You really don't call those. So, I listen, they're 7-3 right now. Green Bay, I looked at their schedule this morning. They're probably gonna go 13-3, and everybody's gonna fall back in love with them. But when I look at the Packers, I take the games out where they face bad quarterbacks, because you're not going to face any of those in the playoffs. You're going to face Russell Wilson or a Jared Goff or a Tom Brady. You're not going to face any bad quarterbacks, so I don't care about those games. I'm going to cherry pick the games you play, teams with competent quarterbacks that are physical, because those are the teams that end up in the playoffs, especially in the second round on. Matt LaFleur, after the game, his thoughts on getting completely pushed around in the second half against the Colts.
It was the tale of two halves. I thought the first half there was a lot of great complimentary football. The second half was the exact opposite, and we got beat in every phase. Obviously, the kickoff return where we fumbled the football was a big point in the game as well, and you just can't do that stuff against a good team.
And you can't sit on the sidelines if you're Aaron Rodgers and watch a 14-play drive and a 10-play drive and an 8-play drive result in 13 points. That, to me, I kept watching early second half, and I'm like, how is Aaron Rodgers going to be in rhythm? He had a couple of 3-and-outs. Of course he did. You sit in the sidelines for a 14 and a 10-play drive. You can't ask an offense to walk in against that Colts defense and just, come on, first down, first down. It's too hard for Aaron. I'll defend Aaron here. If you can't get that 24